Welcome to the United States of America podcast. I am your host, Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here on North Carolina. We welcome you to make yourself comfortable as we go over the current state of the world and our nation. And if you missed past episodes, please be sure to take the time to at least watch the first episode to have a proper introduction to our conversations. These conversations are not otherwise happening in any particular order. And please be aware that we expect you to behave with honor in our comment section. We're a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or sales podcast, and we are not sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, and if you say that you're a sovereign citizen, you're a moron. A sovereign is a free and honorable living man or woman who operates under God's law, natural law, hermetic law, and who honors themselves and others in peace. One definition for the word citizen is slave, but there are different kinds of citizens. Putting those two words together is an oxymoron. We also do not promote or condone TikTok or Facebook or any other social media games to test the system and impose your beliefs onto society at large. This is not a marketing and promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you. We are sharing the truth about our birthright and your inheritance. We are interested in helping you reclaim your birthright and your inheritance. We are not sitting in judgment of you. This information is a beacon of light for you to use when you choose to seek it. We have marshals at arms that are designated as moderators who are assisting in the comments section. Please be kind with your words. If you diminish others, you'll be put in a timeout or deleted or blocked as deemed necessary. If you have any questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I am happy now and excited to be able to introduce to you Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy day to everybody.
We're walking into the winter solstice, Anna.
I know. It's very dark here. We get about 4 hours of daylight each day. So it's been dark all morning so far. It will start getting light about 10.
Wow. So that's tough. How's, I don't know. I feel like I'm solar powered and I need the sun.
Yeah, it's hard to get used to. It's definitely a struggle to deal with the extremes of darkness and light in Alaska.
Yeah. I wanted to focus this episode on a few things. One thing, last week at the end of our show, we were talking and you said something awesome to me. And I hadn't heard it since I was like 8 years old. You said, Niti, no guts, no glory. And I was like, I love this. I haven't heard that in so long. You and I were chatting about, how the marshals were taken out of the meetings and that, they shouldn't have to babysit us adults who are having adult conversations as we, reconstruct our republic. And I thought about what you were saying and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so powerful what she's saying. And it's so true. And no one is walking in that knowledge these days. It's kind of was taken from us. And I hope that you could speak a little bit more to that. I think that a lot of Americans, we need to hear it. And so I wondered if you wouldn't mind talking about that a little bit this morning.
Well, carved into the lintel of my grandmother's farmhouse was this saying. It says, courage is the first virtue. Okay? That's an ancient Roman adage. And it's true. If you don't have courage, you can't guarantee any other virtue. Think about it. If you don't have courage, you can be cowed down and made to accept any amount of nonsense because you'll just be a coward and hide under a bush, and that'll be that. So you must have courage. If you don't have courage, get some. Figure out that your life is not worth living as a slave. Figure out that your life is not worth living if you don't have meaningful relationships, if you don't have a decent environment to live, and that you cannot be happy or have growth or anything else if you're going to live as a slave of some sort of a territorial technocracy. Okay? So you've got nothing to lose. You must find your courage in order to stand up against this and in order to claim your birthright and to enforce your contracts, which is really what this is all about. So that's, the essence of no guts, no glory is just simply the fact that if you don't have courage enough to stand up for yourself, you can't expect everybody else to stand up for you.
And so, true or false, Anna, what the marshals were doing wasn't that it was wrong. It was just that they shouldn't have to come in and do that. People should be doing that for themselves.
Well, yeah, it's all part of the police state mentality to think that you have to run to a policeman every time you have a little problem with some other party. I mean, it's ridiculous. We've been indoctrinated into that mindset where we think that, oh, well, go get the police, let's start a lawsuit. Let's use some legality because we don't know how to use any kind of more direct means of solving interpersonal relationships and communication problems. We just don't have enough courage to go to somebody and say, hey, look, you're censoring me, or you're outside of your jurisdiction and stepping on my toes, and that's all fine for what's going on in your state, but we don't necessarily feel the same way or want to do the same thing. You have to sort of have a sense of yourself and your own turf, and not be afraid to express that. If you go back and you look at the discussions, the minutes from the early continental congresses, you will see just how vehement and self-knowing those men were. They definitely knew what land they were standing on. And they didn't have any problem expressing themselves regarding their State of the Union and their priorities as states. And we should not have any compunction about that now. If in this case, if one state, Washington State, which is one of the more advanced states, is riling you up because they're seeming to take too much authority and to be telling you what to do, then say to them, hey, we're our own state here. And you're welcome to express what you've done and how you've done it. And we appreciate knowing, that you're sharing, but it's just sharing. We're not necessarily obligated to do what you say or do things the way you've done them. We're our own state. So, please observe that there is a boundary here, and it's not appropriate to be censoring us or being too forceful in trying to foist off what you think on us.
Right. I think that these days, Anna, people are not allowed to know what they want. If you ask somebody on the street, hey, what do you want? What do you want out of life? 99% of people can't really answer the question, like, what do you want and why do you want it? What do you want and why do you want it? And most people just simply cannot answer that question. it is my encouragement for people here all the time, like, do you know what you want? Do you know why you want it? I mean, it's one of the most important things that I teach the kids. And you made a very, very big point. And it's fascinating. My son is 19. He left the house for the first time. He went to go do a stewardship program at a friend of mine's farm. And the first lesson he had to learn is how to advocate for himself. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is something a lot of adults don't know how to do. He had to advocate for himself. He had to be able to ask for what he wanted while still respecting the people whose land he was living on. And this is a skill that a lot of people simply just don't know these days. And,
Right.
So I appreciate you. When you said that to me, I said, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that in such a long time. And it just really invoked so many emotions and memories. And it made me rethink so many things for this past week that I feel like an entire month has gone by since I spoke with you because I was going through all of that. And I just thank you so much for doing that and saying that to me. And
Well, we used to call this boundary setting.
mm-hmm.
Learning where your boundaries are and where other people's boundaries are, and coming to an agreement or a understanding of where your boundaries legitimately are. And that happens to us as individuals, that as families, as communities, as states. In all these different realms, we have boundaries, and we have to learn how to set those and keep those and be appropriate within those. So that's just part of growing up as people and as states.
It's true. And right now there are so many people being triggered because that's a professional psychological term, and I mean it in that way, because of the indoctrination, the programming, the mind control. Then these things become very hot, real hot, real fast, because people can't just honor and respect each other enough because they haven't actually ever been really taught to care
They
about
haven't been taught to honor themselves, so they don't know how to honor anybody else. And, I can say it, but it takes a few times before it really sinks in that your rights end where someone else's rights begin. And learning to know where that boundary lies and learning to respect it is key to success. So, all we can do is keep saying it, keep observing it, keep modeling it, and, sooner or later people will learn it. Just as they should have learned it when they were children growing up, they can learn it as adults.
Hey, I had to reparent myself because our parents, I mean, God bless them, they loved us. They really took good care of us, the best they knew how, right? But there was a lot of things, they made us super compliant with the system because that was what they not knew. They only knew for us to do that, right? They didn't know anything else. And so for me to be able to break out of that, there was a lot of parenting that we had to do for ourselves to, bring that about. And that is not limited to, but includes, having tolerance for others and allowing them to correct you. Hey, Anna, we bring things to you. We bring you all the questions. And when we're wrong, you correct us and you tell us, hey, this is not right. It's the reason we have you here. It's the reason we want to talk to you. If we can't, we're gleaning this knowledge. You have so much more experience than, I do. I do definitely, or I don't know anybody who has this knowledge. And so I think that everyone's so caught up in like you said, they've created a litigious society. They have all of us looking to try to find a reason to start a lawsuit or a fight constantly. I mean, the art of war is real, you know, this divide and conquer mentality that they've created. And it's difficult. Cynthia and I have opened up a channel on Telegram to practice talking to each other respectfully with everybody, anybody who comes there. And we invited everyone, Anna, who's tuning into the podcast, to come there to our Telegram channel, which is the American State Assemblies is the name of the channel. And we are just talking about the basics of coming back to the land and soil, because, you know, there's so many new people and they're just coming back. They're so excited about diving in. And also they're still very de facto in their mindset. And
Right.
so the more we talk about it, the more we can practice, you know, and we can, any questions that me and Cynthia, or I actually had a conversation with Michelle in California and invited her also to come. We had a great conversation because, you know, we should all be working together. Anna, what we wanted to do, and I wanted to ask you if, you know, what your thoughts are about this. We wanted to start a race to try to get everybody's 4 pillars up and just work together and share the information over there. We're going to open the channel up so that everybody can come in and talk. We want to hear from anybody and everybody who wants to know what to do. And start a race, because isn't it true? Like, until we get our courts up, that's where all our power is. Isn't that what you keep telling us?
Well, it's not where all your power is, but it's certainly one of the major problems that we face is that we've been subjected to foreign law and at the mercy of foreign courts. And if we want to get a whole lot of irritation out of our lives, it makes sense that we get on our broomsticks and get our courts set up so that we're functioning under American law and are actually empowered by our general jurisdiction instead of being prey for these foreigners that are coming in here and basically just pillaging us.
And then you said last week that, you know, you want everyone to stop putting out notices, focus on the 4 pillars. There's a bunch of people who think that they still want to go out and file liens and notices, because once our states are funded, they want to be able to fund those liens. And this is the encouragement that they're getting. Is that true?
No. They just don't understand the use of commercial law, and they don't understand what's already been done. You know, they need to get their heads out of their butts.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Tell us about it, because they're doing it and they're encouraging it.
No. Now, the misunderstanding is that Terry in Washington filed a bunch of commercial liens against the people that were putting her through an unjust, unconscionable eviction process. Okay?
Oh.
So she individually, as an individual, put liens against these commercial entities for their liability for doing this to her. Okay, that's a different thing. Now, many people do a lot of crazy things when they are in situations where they're under duress and they're in an unfamiliar territory or venue, and they are just kind of stumbling and staggering and stammering around, and they have all sorts of unrealistic ideas about how they're going to do things. Now, you have to stay within the realm of common sense in living your life. And many people can't seem to do that. You know, you ask them how much they've been damaged, and they say, oh, $600 trillion. Yeah, I don't know where they think they're ever going to find somebody that's going to be able to fund that and willing to fund that. You know, what they should be doing if they're going to consider taking these sorts of steps is to look what do people do in these situations and venues. You know, conduct yourself accordingly so that you're within the realm of possibility of getting some redress from this process instead of just trying to blow everything up and create all these problems for yourself and other people.
Hmm.
Now, the very first thing you have to understand about commerce is that every entity that participates in commerce is dead. I keep saying this, and people just are not listening and not getting it. Everything in international and global jurisdictions, every party, every entity that is operating in those jurisdictions is dead. Okay, you are in the realm of the dead. Once you leave the soil, you are in the realm of the dead. So
that corporate fiction thing, they're just not understanding that you can just make that up on the minute. And that is what they do. They're assuming whatever they want unless and until you put them on notice that you comprehend what they're trying to do and you do not participate.
well, here's the point. Here you are, you're trying to get out of the realm of the dead. You're trying to get back onto the land and soil so that you can be respected as a living man or woman and claim the rights and the assets and everything else, right? And here they are going right back through the revolving door and putting themselves in the realm of commerce. And they are unwittingly using properties that they no longer have a claim to because they haven't done all of the underlying underpinning work. And it's all for naught because it's already been claimed. I mean, everything that they could hope to get out of all their liens and all their processes that they think that they're going through, it's already been extracted.
It's so sad, like honestly, Anna, I don't know what harm everyone else has experienced because we've all been harmed. I mean, my daughter was murdered. They tried to rip my whole family apart. It's just a miracle and a blessing that, my husband is a saint, okay? He fought for me the whole time. He didn't have to do that. And everybody else's family over there was falling apart. How much money am I supposed to get for the murder of my daughter? Can you just tell me? Like, this is not about money. This is about what is correct. This is about vindication. This is about justice. This is about ensuring that our future, like our children, should not have to go through this nonsense. And
Right.
that is all. That is my only, I've told you so many, everybody knows that I'm here for the farmers, for us to get real food, because I'm worried about our children and their children. I mean, most of these kids right now are already sterilized.
I know. The whole situation is absolutely crazy. And really, if you stop and you think about this, there is no way to compensate anyone for the kinds of losses you're describing. There's no amount of money that can make up for being sterilized. There's no amount of money to make up for the loss of a loved one. And there's no amount of money that can make up for the loss of your home or the slander against your good name. There are so many things that are immaterial that cannot ever be compensated for with money.
Right.
And so people just have to accept that, there are some losses that cannot be made up with money. They can only be made up with time and love.
Love. Love is the key. Love is the dissolvent of everything. Love is the dissolvent of everything.
And so, this idea that people have that you can just wave your hands and dump $1 trillion on it and it's going to feel better is totally wrong. It's just not real. The fact is that you're going to miss your daughter just as much no matter what.
Yeah, they robbed me of the opportunity for me to watch her grow up, for me to watch her brother and sister and the three of them shape each other and shape us. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and it's horrible. I think the point is made, right?
Right.
Okay. I want
So,
to get to some questions because I know that we have a lot of them. And the first one I'd like to ask you, Anna, because there is a lot of chaos and confusion about the marshals at arms in terms of the Continental Marshal, the marshals at, like, what are the positions? We have people who are telling our marshals at arms that they're not marshals at arms, they're sergeant at arms, for example. And so I'm curious for you to just explain. Can you explain the Continental Marshals, then the Marshal at Arms? Is there some chart we should be referring people to or something for them to understand? Because I think what they're doing is confusing the de facto, but I don't really have the knowledge to be able to speak proficiently on that. I hope that you could help enlighten everyone.
Well, the Marshal at Arms office comes from the British system. We inherited it along with a lot of other bits and pieces from the British system because they had such an influence from early days here in this country. So the Marshal at Arms position actually predates the Revolution, and it was meant as a position to be able to keep order in meetings, public meetings, and that's basically the origin of it. Now, we didn't change the name. Our ancestors didn't change the name. We saw no point in changing the name of the office. But the thing is that the Marshal at Arms is supposed to be there preventing such things as drunks coming in and raging and shouting and disturbing the peace in the meetings so that the meetings can go forward and be productive. So that's basically the function of the Marshal at Arms. And, in today's context, that sometimes means that if somebody's out of hand and causing a disturbance, they hit the mute button. Okay? Now, because there's a need to network the different functions of the assemblies at some level so that they can communicate with each other and with other offices and officers in different jurisdictions, the Continental Marshals who work the jurisdiction of the land have been contacting the Marshal at Arms for the assembly as a contact person. Okay. That is not anything formalized. That's nothing traditional. It's just a convenience at the present time to have somebody in an assembly that they can identify as having a peacekeeping function. Now, as time goes on, you're going to see that there will be communication established between the Marshals at Arms, and there will be communications established between the Marshals at Arms and the militia leaders in the assembly, obviously, right? There will be communication between the Continental Marshals, the sheriffs, the state militias, and the Marshals at Arms. And that all makes complete and total sense, even though they're all involved in different jurisdictions or different duties within those jurisdictions. So, the Marshal at Arms position is just exactly what it says, that you are there to maintain the safety. If it's a physical meeting, a Marshal at Arms would, for example, traditionally would check out the meeting hall and make sure that the meeting hall was safe. They would have helpers that went and prepared the meeting hall prior to the meeting, secured the space, made sure that things like, for example, say that you're in New Hampshire and it's winter, and you've secured a meeting space and you're holding a public meeting. Well, the Marshal at Arms would go ahead of the meeting and take an ice pick and a sack of ice melter and clear the walkway. safety features, safety issues, to be looking out for the members of the assembly's safety and comfort and well-being is the marshal at arms function. And if it's a physical meeting, it's a different list of things to be concerned about than a teleconference, right, like this. But it's still the function of the marshal at arms to be aware of the safety and comfort of the assembly.
So currently, we are our situation. We don't really probably have all the drunkards and all the other situations going on that someone might have had, in a different circumstance. But I think that what you're saying is they're there to keep order in the meeting, and so for our calls that we're doing like this, or our assembly meetings that are on Zoom or whatever, then it is appropriate for them to just be there, make sure everyone is being honorable and respectful of each other, and then call a point of order if that's actually required while everybody's learning, what it is that's going on right now that we're supposed to be doing, making sure everybody's on track, right?
Right. Well, and we've all been in meetings where somebody came in a little bit hot and wanted to go on and on and on and on about their issue, right?
Sure.
But we can't always afford to just sit back and let our work go while they vent.
Right.
So, there are all those situations where some decorum and some discipline has to be enforced so that the actual work of the assembly can be done.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, Anna. Also, so the next question I have for you is, could you just go over in the assemblies, which positions are the elected positions and who gets to vote on those positions? Because currently there's a lot of confusion about that.
Well, I don't know why there would be any great amount of confusion about that.
Oh, there's a lot of confusion, and people are saying, I'll give an example. So some people are thinking that you can't vote, for example, for the marshal at arms of our state. We had to elect them and then vote them in. Same as like for ombudsman or, treasurer. And so there are some people across the country that are saying, they can't vote if they are not a citizen, a state citizen. And I thought, no, you should just be able to vote because you came home and you're in the assembly. The other thing that they're saying is that the coordinator can just appoint himself as treasurer and they don't need to have an election. And unless there's somebody, I don't know, like, please explain. I don't know. We need guidance.
Well, we've written books, we've written articles. I don't know how much more we can write or say about this subject. I mean, there are over 4,000 articles that are at my website, www.annavonrights.com, and there's a search engine there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why they don't believe you, Anna, when you wrote it. I don't know why they don't believe it. But I mean, from my understanding is if I have recorded myself as American State National and come back to the land and soil, then I come to the assembly meetings, or I don't come to the assembly meetings. They're not mandatory. But if I want to come and there's there's a vote going on, I can vote.
Right.
Okay.
What's been happening though is that one coordinator in particular, in his zeal of trying to get people to join the assembly and do their paperwork, was letting people come in from the public and vote.
Oh.
Without actually going through the process of doing their paperwork and declarations and publications. So that was undermining the standing of the entire assembly. We had to boot him out and get rid of him and get new coordinators. No, if you have done your paperwork and you are declared, then you get to vote in the General Assembly, and the General Assembly gets to deal with anything that happens within the borders of your state. Okay? Now, if it's something that goes beyond the borders of your state, or that requires your state to consider contracts with other entities outside your state, then you have your International Business Assembly that is the state citizens. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the state citizens are the ones who vote in the International Business Assembly.
These are the people that were elected in. No, state citizens are.
State citizens are members of your assembly who have no other affiliation or loyalty to any other government, and who take the pledge saying, I don't have any affiliation or loyalty or allegiance to any other prince, potentate, or principality. I am totally and uniquely devoted to my state of union. Okay? Now, not everybody can say that. Federal workers can't say that. State of state workers can't say that because they're working for another government. All right? Law enforcement officers working for the county of can't say that. So, not just everybody can function as a state citizen. State citizens really, truly cannot have a dual citizenship status or be working for some other government and have a conflict of interest, and they shouldn't even be licensed by any other government.
Okay. But dual citizenship people, like the police officers or teachers, I guess, also would fall into that, I guess. I'm not sure, right? If they're working for the county school system.
Right. If they're working for the corporate government, obviously, that's their main income and everything. They have a conflict of interest that would not allow them to say that they had a unique and solitary allegiance to their state of the union.
So are they not allowed to vote, but they can come to the General Assembly meeting? Because some of these people with dual citizenship have been kept out of their assemblies altogether. And I don't think that's right either.
No. It's not a citizenship.
Okay, everybody. Did y'all pay attention? Like, say it again, Anna. If they have dual citizenship in this scenario.
No. When we start out, we are classified in their eyes as dual citizens because they have conferred on us a registration as a U.S. capital U dot capital S dot capital C U.S. citizen at the hospital where we were born. That's where they trick our mothers into changing our political status to that of a British territorial citizen, as if we were born in Puerto Rico. Okay? That's one. And then they turn around and they say, oh, well, the American is missing, lost at sea, right? Because they've trafficked us into their jurisdiction. And then they go ahead and they set up a municipal corporation in our name, which is also considered a citizen under the diversity clause of the federal code. Okay, so that's what they mean when they're talking about dual citizenship. And remember, citizenship means that you owe the government. You are obligated to work for and toe the line for the government. It does, you're the servant of the government, not the government serving you if you are a citizen. All right, so the word citizen in itself basically means that you're either an indentured servant or a slave that owes service to the government. You don't want to be a citizen in 99.99% of the cases. You do not want to be called a citizen.
This is the confusion, Anna. So when we have an American state national, an American state citizen, then everybody's like, how is Anna calling us American state citizens? This is the moment where
this is just stupid, because think about it. Somebody has to work and work for the state government and do the functions of state government.
The real government.
Self-govern.
The real government, the American government, the one with this flag, right? So
right.
Other
governments have citizens.
Okay,
right?
friends. Okay, this is the thing. There are the conversation they get lost right there, and this is the indoctrination, the mind control. It's limiting their ability to critically think.
Well, look, you can be a citizen of Ireland. You can be a citizen of Spain. You can be a United States citizen. You can be an American state citizen. All these different governments have citizens that do the work of the government, okay? In America, American state nationals are the ones that make the decisions for what goes on in their state, within the borders of their state. But American state citizens, the people who are also American state nationals who just happen to have no other allegiances to any other government, are the ones that make decisions for their state in international affairs.
International. This is the important key. When they can vote internationally and not just within the state.
Right.
Not exactly. That everybody can vote within the state, friends. But when you're trying to vote on something like Anna needs to have a vote or something, and she's calling all the states together and they're voting together on representing the whole state of North Carolina or wherever you're at, we are not, like, everybody can't do that. It's whoever our representative is for the state.
It's your state international business assembly.
Boom. Which is one of the 4 pillars, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So out of the General Assembly, you identify those people who are not working for the federal government, aren't working for a state-of-state franchise, aren't licensed, aren't dependent in some way on the foreign corporations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have no particular attachment to those entities,
mm-hmm.
who can agree to act as a state citizen and serve their state and make decisions about their state interaction with the rest of the world.
Okay. And that happens in that 4th pillar, in that one of those 4 pillars. And so that's kind of an easy pillar to stand up, isn't it?
It is.
And do that. Okay.
Right. You just find out, how, which people in your assembly don't have any other affiliations and are willing to serve as state citizens to make decisions for your state about international issues. Okay. Now, is your state going to be a member of a treaty?
Mm-hmm.
Is your state going to, sign a contract to receive services from a foreign corporation? You have to have somebody making these decisions who's not working for that foreign corporation, right?
Got it. Yeah, because otherwise, they have a conflict of interest.
Right.
All right, here we go. We have another one here. I think this is an easy one. Does a juror need to be elected or not after stepping up as an American state national?
No. Jurors are not offices in that sense. They're not elected offices. A person who is taking part in their government and actually self-governing naturally has a right and responsibility to take part in their court system.
Do we mail in our tax revocation letters in before stopping federal withholding with our employer?
Well, it certainly makes sense to do so. I mean, it's just a matter of cart before horse, but yes.
I think this is kind of the follow-up confusion. Does an American state citizen need to be elected or not in order to serve as a juror? I thought any of us could be jurors if we're qualified for that case without a conflict of interest. Is that wrong?
Look, rarely you're going to have cases that come up that are international cases.
Mm.
And then you're going to want to have your state citizens identified as a jury pool that you can draw upon, but it's not elected. It's not an elected position or office. Being a juror is dependent on the jurisdiction. Can you speak to the issue and subject matter at hand? If it's something within the state borders, then all of the ASNs can speak to it. If it's something that affects things outside the state borders, then you need your state citizens in place to be able to make those sorts of decisions and serve in those court cases. But it's pretty darn rare that you're going to have to try an international case in a state venue.
Okay, these are some really beginner questions. Can ASN receive student loans and public assistance? I believe the answer is yes.
Yes.
What does the signature look like in our passport? You guys need to watch some of our previous episodes because we've talked about this. Also, can veterans still receive their benefits? Yes, if it's owed to them, right?
Yeah. What you want to do with yes, you can receive public assistance and student loans, but bear in mind that you are actually owed those things for free as an American. And so once you have made that decision, you've returned home, so to speak, then you will be eligible to get your student loans paid by prepaid credit, because you're already owed this humongous amount of prepaid credit. You don't have to go through all that anymore. And that's coming very soon. So, just realize that whatever loans and things that you may have are going to go away. And then also realize that you're still owed your benefits from Social Security and military benefits and all that stuff, because these are corporations. I mean, if you had a pension with IBM, would you still be owed your pension with IBM?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you worked for Aramco in Arabia and were there drilling oil for 40 years and decided to, retire and move to Maui, would you still be eligible to receive your check from Aramco in Maui?
Yeah.
Okay. So
All
these are corporations. These are giant corporations that owe you money, that owe you retirement, that owe you benefits. And, that's a one-on-one kind of contract that you fulfilled, and now they have to fulfill their part.
Right. We have to enforce it.
Yeah, so it's a separate issue, apart from your political status.
Right.
You may have had to work as a U.S. citizen for your entire life as a postal worker. But once you retire, they're still on the hook to pay your pension. And you can be in whatever political status you like because you're no longer working for them.
Excuse me. This whole slave thing is really big. Shedding the slave self, Anna, has been a challenge for a lot of people. Look at this one. If a state citizen has a tiling business, can he pay his workers in cash? Yes, you can pay them however you want, because we're not micromanaging this. Okay.
There's nothing illegal about it.
That's the problem, is just basic business that people know you should be able to do, you haven't been able to do as a side effect of the.
I'm going to have to pause just a second, run out and open the door for someone.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Yes. All right, friends, we're knocking these out. We're getting close to the hour, so I'm going to try to get through as many of these questions as I can. And I'm looking to see if there's any of these that we're doing a good job here. Let's see. I definitely need Anna to answer a lot of these other questions. Jeff Jackson, you're saying what do we have to do to get an invitation? I don't know that everybody needs to go to any of these things, but let's ask Anna. Here she comes. Anna, what are the steps that we need to do to get an invite link to Sunday night coordinator call when the man or women have been vetted and have raised when they're the coordinator? I don't know that it matters. You're doing the Thursday night training now, so like they can just do the Thursday night training.
Yeah, the Sunday meetings are for coordinators to get questions answered about nitty gritty daily task type information. And you only go to those if you're a coordinator and you're actually working as a coordinator.
I think they're saying they don't get a link for that. I don't know.
Well, if they are actually working as a coordinator and they finish the training, then that's something to take up with Terry. But if they're just starting the process and taking the Thursday night intro to being a coordinator, then they need to just wait and go through the entire training process.
As a freelance contractor, a client asked for an updated W-9 for next year. This is the first time they have asked me for an IRS-related form since I corrected my status. How should I proceed?
Well, the problem is that when you hire people who are U.S. citizens, then you get dragged into having to administer the programs for them. That's how they enforce all the IRS stuff on people, is that if you hire a U.S. citizen, then the U.S. citizen has to go through withholding and all that other stuff, and you as their employer have to provide that.
So the contractor, so they're trying to get a job, independently as a freelance contractor, and whoever they're trying to do the job for, that person wants them to file a W-9. Isn't there a way to file exempt on the form?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, just put exempt on there. Okay. Timothy White, specifically, why not ambassador instead of citizen, given that we are each individual nations in light of our individual sovereignty?
Well, that's silly. Think about it. Are you made an ambassador just because you have a body? An ambassador of what? Of who? No, an ambassador is a specific diplomatic office between governments. Okay, so all these people who are running around pretending to be ambassadors are just impersonating ambassadors and causing confusion. Because believe me, if I walk up to you and I say I'm an ambassador of the United States of America, it has a completely different meaning than, oh, I'm just here representing my own interests.
Yeah. Okay, Lavelle's saying, is there an updated list of counties with common law sheriffs?
I wish there was, but no, there isn't. That's something that the peacekeeping task force will, have to undertake as we go forward.
Tina wants to know, when the 5,000 AFD was deposited in the global family account, did it hit everybody's account, or is it done by rounds, or when you signed up?
Well, the first round was everybody that was signed up at that time. So if you signed up since then, you'll have to wait and everything will get caught up.
What is the steps? What do we need? Oh, this is the same color. Sorry, Anna. Use no, we don't use the indemnity bond, right?
Why in the world would you use the indemnity bond for travel?
Or a court case. They don't know what it's for. That's the problem. Watch some of the previous episodes, y'all, because Anna's talked about this before. What should we check off on job applications if we're now status corrected?
Well, most of the time they ask you if you are a United States citizen. Okay? And they don't say which United States. So, you just have the ability to cross it out and write American. Because you don't know what you're being asked to sign up as. Now, if you're signing up for a government job, obviously you're going to have to adopt U.S. citizenship. If you're not signing up for a federal job, you don't have to.
The 4 banks that did not acquiesce filed Chapter 7?
No, they're just not going to offer credit card services to their depositors anymore. And, realistically, if we're going to start offering prepaid credit to people, we're going to start repaying people with prepaid credit that they already are owed. Why would they need a conventional credit card?
The SIA position, a coordinator position? No.
No. We call them a coordinator because they're coordinating that program. That is not the same thing as an assembly coordinator.
Okay. The passport. First of all, there's been other questions about the bylines. So does it matter if the word by is capital or lowercase?
No. As long as it's there, what you're doing is you're claiming the authorship of that particular autograph.
Right.
And when you write your name, you just write it the way you were taught in school. You don't have any fancy hyphens. You don't have any semicolons or colons. It's just the way that you were taught to write your name in school, but you use the byline to claim the authorship of it. It's an private authorship.
And upper and lowercase.
Upper and lowercase. And, you can even write a little C with a circle around it to post your private copyright on that particular signature, right? Because they consider signatures to be signs. They're symbols. Signature is a signature, meaning it is not the words, it's the total thing as a symbol. All right? So it's like a piece of art. You paint your picture, you write your name at the bottom, and you do your little private copyright symbol by writing a C with a circle around it. It's the same thing. Your signature is a sign, and it's a work of art. So you're claiming it as a individual work of art. It's your signature, your sign. So you go by as a byline, just like when somebody writes a newspaper article, you see, by John Rappaport, by, whatever.
By my living hand, isn't it? Isn't that what that means? By my living hand.
By my living hand, yes. A byline, BY, and then you've claimed your particular signature on your passport or any other document.
What is an example of a secured jail?
Well, I mean, in theory, people are under house arrest. You've heard of house arrest, right? Uh, a secured jail is where you have actual people that are making sure that you stay in jail. And so it's more, think of the sheriff's office in the Old West. He had his office in the front and he had a couple of cells in back. And he was there to make sure that the people in the cells stayed in the cells. That's a secured jail.
All right. And Anna, this is the last one. When will the prosperity cards be mailed out? Probably when they're
Yeah, when they're ready. When they're all printed out and have the right numbers on them. We are working on that, of course, among all the other things we're working on. And it's kind of a race to the finish line as to whether it's going to be the prosperity cards or it's going to be the mega cards, which get mailed out first. But, bottom line, once they hit, you're going to have to figure out what you're using and applying against what bills. So what I would advise everyone to start doing is to start thinking in terms of what bills come to them in their all capital letters name and what bills come to them in upper and lower case, and separate them out into two piles.
Okay. Which pile is the prosperity one and which one is the other?
You're going to have to make those decisions yourself according to your own situation.
Oh.
Okay. But it will be possible for you to use your prosperity card to pay off college loans or car loans or house payments or utility bills. And you really need to kind of stop and think about what are my public debts versus my private debts. If I go buy a pair of shoes for me, that's obviously a private debt that has to do with me consuming a pair of shoes. I've gone out in the consumer market and bought a pair of shoes. All right, well, that's a private debt. That's not a public debt. But if I pay a utility bill to a publicly owned corporation, guess what? That's a public debt. That's my consumer function has been with a public corporation. Okay? So you're going to want to start thinking about bills and billing and expenses in a different way. You're going to try to make a distinction in your brain between what is something that you are using that has been provided or created in an individual way by a company that you're buying something from versus something that is being provided in the public by say a regulated utility or a bank. I mean, these are in a different class of expense and transaction. And people need to be starting to think in terms of, what's public and what's private.
Yeah, it's a new way for everybody. Okay, I'm just going to show you these last two things and then it's a wrap. What does this mean? Actually, this Gerard on Cayuga, thanks, IRS, federal court took everything.
Well, they do. They regularly take everything. And they get away with it because they misrepresent you as a U.S. citizen. And they can do what they like once they get you in that position and your state court is not set up. And that's, your defense is your state court, and you're not getting your state court set up. And
So
then
that'll resolve this problem then too, right?
yes.
Okay, guys.
All the problems that you had with all these federal courts interfering in your private lives and coming into your states and harassing you and confiscating your assets and causing you all sorts of grief, it's all because you haven't bothered to set up your state courts.
4 pillars, guys. We are racing, Anna. We're going to race to get all the 4 pillars up and see who gets there. Because the first person who's doing it is going to be shouting it from the rooftops, you guys. We're going to make sure that they're going to be up on stage telling everybody all the good news, because we are getting there, Anna. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it quickly because that's the solution. It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yep.
Did it, Anna? Is. Okay, so we're missing Cynthia. She's on a boat, and winter solstice is tomorrow, I think, or Thursday. And then hopefully your days will start getting brighter afterwards. And Christmas is coming for those who are doing Christmas. New Year's is coming. But we plan to take a break next week, Anna. That's next Tuesday. We will be on hiatus. And then we'll be back January 2nd.
All right. Well, I want to get a chance to speak to anybody for Christmas week, but I will be writing, and those writings will be posted. I'll keep you up to date on progress with things that we're working on.
Sure. And, did you want to that week?
No, that's fine. I'm happy. I already arranged that we will not be doing a Monday webinar next week because it's Christmas Day. Right. And, it's fine if everybody wants to continue to enjoy Boxing Day, which is one of my personal favorite holidays of all, because it's the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
So, let's make it a clean sweep, and we'll just have a week of rest.
Yes.
This coming week.
Excellent.
So anyway, let's do it that way, and then resume hard and heavy for the first week of January.
Okay. Well, we're going to miss you. We love you, and we hope you have a nice rest. And thank you so much for everything that you're working on for us. We appreciate you. And all right, guys. We will
take good care.
We'll see you guys January 2nd. All right, friends?